Hi guys. So I'm trying something new. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me, so that's why I have my headset. Um, so this is a continuation of the whole life update. Um, Real life, it's going to be sporadic and busy again. Sorry about that, but I will upload as often as I can. So in my last video, I ended where I told you that I was working in the healthcare field. We had moved from De Pere back to Green Bay. I then left healthcare and I went to Walmart and then left Walmart because I didn't like I was calling them demerits in the last video, but I was shortly corrected by my husband. They're actually called occurrences. So I didn't like their point system of if you get so many occurrences, then they fire you. Also, at that time, my father-in-law passed away, and then I got back into the healthcare field. When I got back into the healthcare field, I went with a company called Visiting Angels. Visiting Angels is an in-home care service for the elderly population. So basically, you are going into these people's homes and you're helping them clean, you're cooking their meals, you're helping them with medication management. Still, all of this is being done uncertified. I don't have any certifications at this point. And yes, I was constantly bringing up to my employers, how do I get certified? I don't like the fact that you're having me do this and I'm not certified. What if something were to go wrong? And I have to call, for emergency services, and they're going to ask me, hey, do you know how to do this, or can I see your certification for this? I can't present that if I don't have it. Again, they didn't want to help pay for it. So I was going with that company, and I left them ironically for the same reason that my mother-in-law left them, which was for the simple fact that communication was non-existent between the owner of the company and his employees. He didn't want to communicate with anybody. When it came time to your paychecks and things and filing your taxes and all that, fun junk that you got to do when you work, they had an accountant, and you could never get a hold of the accountant either to make sure that he had the right info. It was really effed up. So I ended up leaving them. I then, after Visiting Angels, I went with a company called VistaCare. Disclaimer, what I'm about to say is just for this video only, and I will explain why as I'm doing it. So I went with a company called VistaCare. I chose them because when I was looking for a new job, I was looking specifically with the intent of I wanted a company that was going to pay to help me get the proper state certifications so that I had basically a license to do this type of work. So I found one, and it was called VistaCare, and everything was going great. I went in for the interview. I always explain in all of my interviews why I don't drive, and they said that was perfectly fine. I had agreed to work their third shift position so that I didn't have to worry about any transportation needs during the day or in the morning. I came home from the interview, had an offer letter in my email that same day, signed it. It was a done deal. I was officially hired on. Went for my TB test and physical, and the physical was what I would consider a joke because this doctor spent all of 5 minutes with me, had me kind of do almost like a field sobriety test type of maneuver with my arms and bend down and touch my toes and reach for the sky and arms out to your side, things of that nature. After that, she's like, okay, all's good. You may just need some help, bending, reaching, twisting, and lifting. Okay, all understandable. They can make adjustments for that, or so I thought. So I then go to standard precautions class. I get that certification, that's all said and done, everything's all hunky dory with that. I get home from that class and there's an email from the owner of the company. Says, can you please call me at your earliest convenience? Okay, no biggie. Didn't really think anything of it. I just thought it was one of those where the owner of the company wants to personally welcome new hires, I guess. So I called her and she said that they had gotten the results of the physical back, and based on the restrictions and limitations that the doctor gave, they could not proceed with employment and had essentially fired me due to my disability. Now, here's where it's going to get complicated. If anybody knows, if somebody with a disability is hired for a position and then they're fired, that is an automatic violation of ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I found a lawyer and I sued them for said violation, and I won my case. Or not won my case, but we went to mediation and we settled. And as part of my settlement, I'm not allowed to reapply with this company. I'm not allowed to be rehired with this company, and I cannot talk about this company painting them in a bad light. I'm just telling, and that's not what I'm doing here. I'm just telling you what happened as it pertains to my life, because it did happen. So after VistaCare was all said and done, I then went back with the temp agency, and they welcomed me back with open arms. Everything was great. I was going to all these houses, making, these clients' lives happy, and everything was all perfect. Then COVID started hitting. This is when COVID started, and everything was kind of shutting down. So at this point, we are up to March of 2020. The schools had shut down. My daughter was pretty much done with school. They sent them home with laptops, and they did a little bit virtual, but it wasn't anything that was going to be graded. I remember getting an email, and that it said they weren't going to be graded on anything that was done past their spring break, because before the school shut down, our district had taken their spring break. So essentially, my daughter did not re-enter that particular school system after spring break at all. But at this point, I was still working with the temp agency. Everything was going great. I came home. I'd worked like 14 days straight with going back and forth to the same houses, so Neenah, Appleton, Oshkosh, that type of junk. And then all of a sudden, so my boss, she would text me with, certain hours, and it was up to me with whether or not I wanted them. So I accepted them. But see, so I accepted them, and everything was great. I was pumped. I was excited. I was getting ready to go to work. So then 15 minutes or so before I'm ready to walk out the door to go to work, because I would end up leaving my house almost an hour, hour and a half early just to make it to these locations on time. So 15 minutes before I'm ready to walk out the door to head to this house that I've been scheduled for, I have it on my schedule that I'm supposed to be at this house at this time. My boss was texting me and saying, "Oh, they don't need you tonight. Enjoy your day off," yada, yada, yada. And it was a constant. I would confirm these shifts and then I'd go to get ready to walk out the door and she's texting me, "They don't need you tonight. They have coverage." So at that point, it was like, you know what? I'm done with the runaround. I'm done accepting shifts just for them to be pulled from underneath me. Because she wasn't even paying me. Like, so say I accepted a shift and then they decided, like the client decided to cancel the shift and didn't need the temp to come in, because that's what I was essentially at that point. I was a temp, because it was a temp agency. Um, the temp agency wasn't paying for the shift that their employee had accepted to take on and then canceling. So I left them because of that. And then I took some time off just to kind of regroup, get myself together. Told my husband, he had to kind of be the man and go out and do some more runs because COVID hit. So basically, anybody who knows, when COVID hit, everything shut down. And basically, the only people that were making really good money were in the beginning. I shouldn't say that, because now people are starting to get back to work and it's great. And we're starting to get the country moving again. Yay. But when it first started, the only people who were really making the big bucks and the good money were healthcare employees and people who were independently contracted. So if you drove for services like DoorDash or Uber Eats, or you did Shipt, which is a personal grocery shopping service, or even Walmart has their own delivery service now. I think it's called Sparked. But yeah, it was services like that that were really making the big bucks. Um, so that's what my husband was doing for a while. However, I'd gotten this bug up my butt. I liked getting out there and getting to work. It made me feel good. And that was because for so long, and I mean 30 plus years, I was told I couldn't work. And then I discovered, guess what? I can, and it feels good. It feels great. I'm out here and I'm doing what I love to do, and it's making other people feel good. And hey, bonus, I'm getting paid for it. Um, so I got back into it, but I again went and I wanted to go with a company that was going to help me get all of the proper licensing and training. So I went with this company. It was called Matthews Senior Living, and it was just so happened to be their Wrightstown location. So I went and I had an interview with them. Oh, for the record, if anybody is asking how I find these places, Facebook. Facebook has that nice little feature now where it has a job listing section, and that's where I found. That's where I found MedEmploy. That's where I found um, Matthews Senior Living, and that's where I found my current um, job, which I will explain to you guys probably in the next video, which will be shortly after this one is over. Don't worry. But Walmart, anybody who's anybody, you can just go to walmart.com/careers and apply that way. Visiting Angels, I found out purely because I asked my mother-in-law, because she worked there. I asked her, I said, hey, are they looking for help there? Because I need something that's going to be more stable and it's not this fly-by-night, uh, wishy-washy shift type of deal. Vistacare was also, I found them through Facebook as well, if anybody's wondering. So I applied through Facebook with Matthews Senior Living, got a response within 2 days. I was asking very simple questions to start, starting wage, how big is your facility, things of that nature. She said she liked my application, asked if I wanted to come in for an interview. I said absolutely. Everything was all hunky-dory. I went in for the interview, filled out the necessary, the paper application portion. Let's be clear here, is a paper application, because really, when you apply on Facebook, all that it's taking is your profile information. So like when you're filling out your social media profiles, the sections where it says your birth date, your phone number, your email address, and then when you start working, once you add your work history, that also goes on your education history. All of that stuff goes on that Facebook application. So be very, very careful what you post to Facebook for that reason. But so I filled out the paper application, all the legal jargon so she could run the background. And within 2 days of that interview, she Facebook messaged me. And she goes, "Hey, your background check came back great. When do you want to come in and fill out, your W-2 and all the other paperwork so you can get paid?" And I was like, "I can come in this date." And I went in and I filled out the paperwork. Basically signing my offer letter, so I was officially hired. Started out making $11.75 an hour, so it was a $2 pay cut from what I was making with the temp agency, which was $13.75. I told her I needed to work second shift and second shift only, because at this point my daughter was doing the homeschool thing. And I needed to be home with her for school because we had signed her up for Wisconsin Connections Academy, which it's a very good school. However, they have to log on like every day, and you have to do it. It's like a regular school, but it's through online. Basically, they have assignments they have to do. They have textbooks and things that they get sent. They have self-addressed, prepaid postage envelopes, so that if certain things need to be sent back to the teachers, they have those. They send them a laptop. They send them everything and anything that they would need depending on their grade. And you log in, you do their attendance daily, you have them log into school, they do their daily assignments. That basically they follow a checklist of stuff that has to get done every day. And so that's what she was doing, and I wanted to be there for that. I wanted to guide her through that. Of course, certain family members didn't like that I wanted to be there and guide her through the process. But oh well, my child, not theirs. They can get over it. Anyway, so everything was great. I was working second shift. Then the person that hired me, she got stressed out to the max because she had no help in the office, so she quit. Then this new administrator took over, and the new administrator was all of a sudden, she was all about policy and procedure, and she pushed all the new hires through medication and administration class. And it's a 3-day class for almost like 6.5 hours a day. So it was 18 plus hours of class that it was paid for so that we could pass meds. Um, I suggest to anyone in the medical field who are just getting into it, if you are just a caregiver, stay just a caregiver for as long as you possibly can. Do not let your employer push you into a med class. Because once they do, then depending on the company, some companies will take advantage of that. And depending on the company, the pay raise may not even be worth it. For me, it was not worth it. It was only a 50-cent pay raise. So I went from making $11.75 as just a caregiver to making $12.25 an hour as a med tech. But with the med tech came more hours. And when I say more hours, I mean all of a sudden I went from working second shift to then I was working third shift again, which I did not want. And I told my boss that. I reiterated that with her when the new admin took over. I said, I was initially hired for second shift if you look at my paperwork. So I was then put on knock shift, and these were awake knocks. And because I was a med tech, I was by myself with 16 residents. So, and then there were times where I was pulling doubles. So I would go in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1400 hours military time. And I would stay until 6 o'clock the next morning or 0600. And it was not easy because I was also passing meds. So say, and it took a good 3 hours to get everybody their meds because you had to, there's 5, technically 6 rights to medication passing. It's the right resident, right time, meaning scheduled med time, so 8 a.m., noon, 6, 4, whatever time it states in the med book that medication is to be given is what time that medication gets given. So right resident, right medication, right time, right dose, right route meaning how it's taken, and then the right documentation. Documentation is, once you're a med tech, the med tech is the only one who does any type of documenting. Caregivers don't have to worry about the documenting in big facilities. Now, AFHs or adult family homes, caregivers, med techs, they do it all, documenting, medication passing, everything. That's also another big one. Okay, so back for a moment to way back when I first started working with the temp agency, remember? So this was back in 2017. No, not 2017, 2018. This is back in 2018. And they, remember I was going with the temp agency and they had me going to these houses, right? They had me passing meds and I was not certified to pass meds. I actually got them in trouble with the state for that because I told them, I said, I refuse to pass meds and they don't want to have double coverage. So they don't want a med tech and a caregiver there. Come to find out, none of their caregivers at that company are med certified. Not good. So back to Matthews. So I was doing all these double shifts. Well, all those double shifts and all of the COVID testing, because that new administrator was one of those, although she was all for policy and procedure, she was not one to follow the COVID rules that were set out by the state, which was like, you don't, especially if you're in the healthcare field, you don't gather in groups larger than At that point, I think it was like 10 people. You don't do any traveling outside of, going home and going to work, anything like that. She was going to different facilities that were rampant with COVID, and then bringing it back to the residents, which meant that all the residents and the staff were getting tested every 2 weeks. Um, Luckily, we didn't have any COVID outbreaks at the facility where I was working. No, I was not one of the ones that went and volunteered her time at these other facilities. I didn't want to risk bringing it home to my daughter, and I didn't want to risk bringing it back to any of the residents that I was working with personally and who I knew did not have it. Um, so, but she basically ended up working me like a dog to the point where I got the flu really, really bad. Like my doctor said I could not go in. She had me COVID tested. Well, at this point, they were doing two. So they were doing a rapid COVID test and a standard, which is the rapid one, the results are back in like 15, 20 minutes. The standard COVID test, they send it out and the results are back in like 2 to 3 days. So the rapid one came back. She called me and said that I had tested positive. And then, but it was a false positive because my standard one came back negative. Well, my boss had me immediately on the schedule again for all these days, and days that I thought I was, positive for COVID, so I had to stay home. And she's like, "Oh, but you're negative," and I had your standard results in my hand. When were you gonna call me and tell me that I was, negative? Because once I found out that that rapid came back positive, I immediately went and I told my husband, which meant my husband and my daughter, my mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law all had to go get tested because we lived in the same house. And there was no way, with the size of that house, there was no way we could social distance. There was only one bathroom, a very small kitchen, very small living space, living room, dining room area type deal. My mother-in-law and daughter were sharing a bedroom. My daughter's choice, not mine or my husband's. She did have her own bed down in the basement by us, but she didn't want it. So basically, everybody in the house had to go get COVID tested because it was such a small house. All the while, she had these negative results in her hand and didn't feel the need to tell me that I was negative until I didn't show up for work because I was scheduled to show up. So I get, I get better. I come back to work, and she starts the same stuff again, back to back to back to back to back. Double shifts, maybe a day off here and there. At one point, it went from I was working 50 some hours straight to all of a sudden I was working 65 to 80 hours straight with no break. And so I told her, I said, I'm done. I'm burnt out. And guys, when I say burnout, I mean that entire time that I thought that I was positive for COVID, I slept for a week straight. I got up maybe once or twice to use the bathroom, but then I went right back to sleep. I was that tired. And just physically and mentally exhausted. I cried. My body hurt so bad that I cried. There wasn't anything that I could take. Even the Tylenol arthritis strength was not helping the pain. The only thing that would help at sometimes was just sleeping. And so I slept. And then finally I'd had enough. I said, "You burnt me out and I'm done. I'm not coming back. Bye. Have a nice life. I'm sorry to the residents." I told my coworkers, I said, "I'm sorry. I don't mean to do this to you guys. However, my mental stability, I can't do it anymore." She sits on her butt and she hires all these people, but she doesn't want to get on the floor and help out herself. So I left, and when I left, I called the state because there was just so many violations that this company was making, to the point where when the state did come in, that company got shut down. The building is getting sold, and the residents have to find somewhere else to go. And it's sad because half of those residents aren't even their own person. They have guardians or somebody that makes all of their major decisions for them. I think there's only like 2 or 3 residents that are their own person. So I left that company, and luckily when I left, I had enough money saved up because I was making over $1,000 with every paycheck. I was bringing home over $1,000 a paycheck. That's how many hours I was working every pay period. So I left. I took some time to kind of recover, and then I found this new company where I'm at right now. I really, really like it. It's called Empowerment Options. Again, I found this company through Facebook. If you want to know about these companies, you're more than welcome to just Google them. So in no particular order, there's Wisconsin MedEmploy, that's WI, and this is all capital letters, one word. So it's WIMEDEMPLOY. Of course, there's Walmart. The other company is Vistacare, VISTACARE, 2 words. The other company was Visiting Angels, VISITINGANGELS, 2 words. Matthews Senior Living, so that's 3 words, MATTHEWS, Senior, SENIOR, Living, LIVING, and they have several locations throughout the state. The one location that I was at was in Wrightstown. And then I went to Empowerment Options, and which is where I'm currently at. Empowerment Options is what's classified as an AFH, adult family home or group home. It's for residents, all male, various different physical and intellectual delay, all very sweet in their own way, even my troublemakers, but that's okay. I don't hold it against them at all. But I do enjoy it. I'm working either first or second shift. I'm never by myself. I always have somebody else there with me. I love the people that I work with. It's a very laid back, easygoing kind of environment. It's not one where it was like with Matthew Senior Living, where I would come to work and I was wearing scrubs every day. I was, I now own 6 pairs of scrubs, I believe, solely because of Matthews. But I can go to work and I can wear jeans. I can wear what I call street or casual clothes. I don't have to wear scrubs unless I want to. If ever I give somebody a shower, yeah, I'm wearing scrubs because, you don't want to get your street clothes all wet and splashed with water. And the guys that I work with, they enjoy shower/bath time because they get to relax. Which, hey, who wouldn't, But, so that's what's going on with my career. I'm going to end this video here. I will pick it up in about 10 minutes, and I will explain the living situation in that video, okay? Thanks, guys. See you in a bit. Bye.